Tomorrow is going to be the beginning. We are going to make America great again. We are going to make America greater, greater, greater than it's ever been before.
Well, that was a very snowy night last night, and Donald Trump was thanking New Hampshire voters for the most amazing experience of his life. He says this whole process has been. They ignored a snowstorm, and they did pack an arena last night in downtown Manchester. Bill Hemmer and I were there to witness this firsthand. He urged his supporters to get out and vote today in the strongest terms possible, no matter what's going on in their personal life. Presidential candidate Donald Trump joins me now. Welcome. Good to have you here this morning, Mr. Trump. And it was interesting to see the phenomenon up close last night. When you look at the polls, obviously you're way ahead in New Hampshire. But I'm curious what your own numbers are telling you right now, because you've been kind of lowering the expectations a little bit and talking about this.
Well, I really have no numbers. I just want to do well. I want to win, even if it's by one vote. I'd like to do maybe a little better than that, but I want to win. It's very important to me. I know New Hampshire very well. I've been here so many times pre all of this political stuff and have many friends in New Hampshire, and it's a great place. And
you don't have any internal pollsters who are working on this for you?
No, I don't do that.
You don't hire any?
We do the best we can. We put out the message. I mean, we're going to help. New Hampshire has a problem that people don't even know about. It's called heroin. They have heroin pouring in, and it's a huge. Every time I meet with a group of people, it's always the first thing they bring up. We're going to seal up the border. We're going to build a wall, by the way, and we're going to seal up the border, and you're going to end that problem, or at least in a large part, you're going to end that problem quickly.
I've talked to a lot of people about the race in general, and many of them say that Donald Trump can get 25% of the vote, and then the other 75% of the vote eventually is going to coalesce around one other person, and he will be beaten.
Yeah, I disagree with it because, we have polls. Some polls show me at 48%, at 44%. That's with everybody in the race. Now, when somebody leaves, I'm going to get some of those votes, whether they're moderate or anything, take it any way you want it. But we're going to get a lot of the people. And in the general election, I do better than everybody else because I think I can win New York, which nobody else can even think about. I think we're going to win Michigan. We're going to win places that a lot of people aren't going to win. So we're going to open up a whole new, we're not going to just be talking about the 6 states.
I got it. But one of the reasons that they say that's the case is because you have very high unfavorables. 59% in the Quinnipiac poll, unfavorable. And, when we talk to voters out there, people are passionately for you, or in many cases, they're passionately against you. And some people feel like in Ohio, what might have happened to the vote there was that there was turnout of people who were saying, I'm showing up because I don't want Donald Trump.
But you mean in
Iowa?
In Iowa. But I got more votes than anybody in the history of the caucus, the Republican caucus. I got 46,000 votes. That's more than anybody. And a lot of votes were taken away with the whole Carson thing. That was a sad thing, but that affected me as much as it did Ben. It was a very sad thing. And we did very well out there. I mean, I came in second place. I picked up a lot of delegates. The man who came in third place is saying he's a new hero. And I come in second place. I said, well, what about me? I came in second place. Why aren't they saying that about me? So, maybe I have a different standard. But I'm really about New Hampshire. I love the people of New Hampshire. We have a great bonding. You saw that last night at the arena. We had close to 5,000 people there in a blizzard. And it was an amazing, it was a great show.
You sometimes talk about who you might consider as a vice presidential candidate. I don't know if they consider that a compliment or not, because some of them are still in the race and they're hoping that they're going to be the candidate. But you're specific about it sometimes. You talked about Scott Brown, who's not in the race. You talked about
I never did, no.
Kasich.
No, I've never talked about a vice presidential candidate.
Well, you say, well, maybe him.
No, people say, what do you think about Scott Brown? I like Scott Brown because he endorsed me, but right. I never thought of him in terms of vice president. But I do like him, and he endorsed me. I never considered Kasich, although I like him, too. I mean, he's been very nice, and he's doing pretty well, I think, actually. But I never talked about him. Because I don't want to talk about anybody as a vice president. I want to win. And there are some very good, candidates out there for vice president, but I never want to get too far advanced. I want to see what happens to them.
And people do criticize you for not wanting to be specific about things. And one of the things that I think a lot of people, maybe the voters who aren't supporting you right now, would love to know is who do you talk to for foreign policy advice? What specific people do you talk to? Because I think you might be able to move outside of the percentage that you already have if you were willing to say, it might give people an increased level of confidence if they knew who you're talking to.
Well, I can do that, and I'm going to release a list in about 2 weeks, and I'm talking to some of the...
Why don't you release it right here, right now?
Well, because it just wouldn't be appropriate.
Just a couple of names, one or two.
But I want to just explain something to you. I think I know more about foreign policy than anybody running. I think my ideas are better than anybody that's running. I was the one that said we shouldn't go into Iraq because you're going to destabilize the Middle East. I'm the only one running that said that. The only one. There's nobody else. Everyone else said, oh, let's go in and, invade Iraq. And I said, all that's going to happen is Iran is going to take over Iraq, which is exactly what's happening. And on top of that, we have ISIS taking up the oil. So you have Iran, you have ISIS, they're taking over Iraq. As sure as you're sitting there, I was the one that said, don't do it. And I said it loud and clear.
All right, well, that's in the rearview mirror, though.
Well, no, it's
Let's
not.
look forward,
no, but that has to, but Martha, that has to do with vision. I said, bomb the oil. Let me go another one. 4 years ago, I said, bomb the oil, bomb the oil, bomb the oil. If they would have listened to me, you wouldn't have ISIS, because ISIS became rich because of the oil. Now I'm telling them, go into the banking channels right now, because through all sorts of back-circuit banking, and nobody knows banking better than I do, tremendous amounts of money is pouring into ISIS. They don't do that because they're politicians. They don't know what they're doing. If they would have listened to me, I also put in Osama bin Laden in the year 2000 before the World Trade Center came down. Osama bin Laden. And one of your colleagues said, that's amazing. Trump wrote about Osama bin Laden before he ripped down the World Trade Center.
Who are you worried about now? When you look forward, what are we going to be saying? Donald Trump knew this now, and he was on the record about it.
I'll tell you who and what I'm worried about now. Incompetence in our government. We have incompetently run, and we have an incompetently run government. I'm not worried about anybody in particular. I'm worried about our own people and our leaders. If we put in the wrong leaders, that's what I'm most worried about. We have incompetent people. We have some people that are running that I think are terrible. I won't even mention names now, but we have some people that I think are terrible. That's my biggest fear.
All right, but
not the enemy.
I just want to get back to ISIS
from
for just
within.
a second and ask you a specific question here, because you've said that we need to do away with ISIS, right? Kayla Mueller was a young woman from Arizona. She was a humanitarian. She was killed. We now know that she was abused by the leader of ISIS, okay? It's a very personal situation that touches a lot of Americans.
Okay.
So they want to know, if you're going to be President Donald Trump, what are you going to do to eliminate this group? Because they've watched the effort that's happened and it hasn't succeeded. I
am going to knock the hell out of ISIS. I am going to hit ISIS so hard. We're not hitting them hard right now. We're doing it politically correctness. I mean, it's always politically correct. You know, they don't want to bomb the oil because they don't want air pollution. They don't want to disturb our environment.
So you would immediately start a bombing campaign?
I would hit ISIS so hard, you have to knock them. They're chopping off heads. We're living in medieval times. If you think about it, I grew up, I'm reading about medieval times where they chop off heads. Who ever heard of this? They're chopping off heads. They're chopping off the heads of the Christians in the Middle East. I will hit ISIS so hard and so swiftly. Now, despite the fact I said don't go into Iraq, and it's well documented, Reuters, everything else, big stories. And, you know, again, I wasn't even a politician, so why are they even writing about it? But for some reason, big stories, Trump said, don't do this, you're going to destabilize the Middle East. Everything I said came true. I know more about foreign policy than these characters that get up and want to start World War III, believe me. And
anybody that you could name who would lead that fight for you? In your administration?
I have many people. I just don't want to talk about them prior to tonight, and I want to do phase one.
I want to give you a chance to do that.
No, I understand that. Well, I think I've been very specific.
But I think you know, it could help you with people who are not supporters if they heard some names from you in terms of who you actually listen to and whose counsel means something to you.
I think people have a lot of respect for my foreign policy, and you know how I've taken my stance on Russia. You've seen what Putin has said about me, and I'm not saying that in a glorious way or anything else. He said very nice things about me. Wouldn't it be nice, frankly, if we got along with Russia, if we got along with other countries, and let them do some of the bombing? I love the fact that I would have Russia do a lot of the bombing of ISIS. We have to get rid of ISIS. ISIS is a sick cancer on the world. It's not just us. It's on the world. We cannot let, on the migration, we cannot let people come into this country because we have no idea who they are, and they could very well be ISIS. I mean, when they're walking around with cell phones and it's got the ISIS flag on them, there's something going on.
Eminent domain. Tough issue for you with conservatives.
Very simple issue for me. I love the issue. You wouldn't have a road, you wouldn't have a highway, you wouldn't have a bridge, you wouldn't have anything if it weren't for eminent domain.
That's not true, because eminent domain laws didn't really exist in this country, and we managed to build tons of highways.
They weren't called eminent domain. It wasn't called, but the government would take for a highway.
All right, why is it okay for someone, whether it's a private company like your company, or whether it's a public entity, to take away somebody's home if they say, I don't care how much money you want to give me, this is my home, and I'm not leaving?
If you are going to build a highway, if you are going to build an airport, if you're going to build even a school, different things, government takes property. It's called the taking. Now, those people get reimbursed a tremendous amount of money, actually more than it's worth.
Not in all cases. In many cases, they say that they didn't end up getting what they wanted.
In all cases, you get, they didn't get what they wanted, but they get at least fair market value.
Well, if they fight it, you know, they get offered a lot of money from a company like yours.
Let's put it this way. If I represented them, they would get a lot of money. There are people that go around and take property that's going to be condemned for eminent domain. They take it because they make so much money with the government, they deal with the government. If you know what you're doing, you get a lot of money. But here's the thing. You wouldn't have anything built. So everybody wants, I'm a conservative. All conservatives want the Keystone Pipeline. You wouldn't have the Keystone Pipeline if it weren't for eminent domain. Eminent domain, it goes from Canada to Texas. Everything is eminent domain. The first 5 pages.
These people are saying, find another way around my house, and you can do that. Companies do it.
I'm just saying, you wouldn't have things that even the conservatives want. The Keystone Pipeline, you have to condemn property. You have to, it's called a taking, and pay the people for it. You may need a corner of a farm, a little corner of a farm. You may get some of that land back. The people will make a lot of money, but the Keystone Pipeline couldn't be built. They have a whole section in the Keystone Pipeline what eminent domain is and why it's so wonderful. Every conservative wants the Keystone Pipeline, but then they talk about eminent domain.
I could talk to you all day, but they're cutting us off. So thank you very much. Good to have you here, Mr. Trump. Good luck to you and everybody else out there today.
Primary day prediction as well.
Well,
what are you going to do?
I hope it's Trump. I mean, we'll see what happens. Long way to go.
That doesn't sound like a prediction.
No, it's no prediction. I don't want to predict. I want to see what happens.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
in a moment here, the Democrats.